Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. It's a really cold day in Nagambie today. I think it's only about 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, so I'm rugged up. This room is our table tennis and dance studio. So Chris and I do a training in here, and we used to run dance classes in here as well. But these days it's known as a room for all of our bits and pieces that we've been collecting. So we've got stereos and TVs and things that Chris has got, and over in this corner I've got fabric, as well as fabric hidden under a couch there, and we just put everything all over the place because our storage sheds are fairly full. I scored some fabric yesterday. There's a guy local to us. He lives about half an hour away, and his wife sadly passed away at the beginning of the year, and she was an avid sewer. She made lots of bags and quilts and all sorts of things, so she's done lots of things. He had been trying to get rid of all of her sewing bits and pieces and hadn't had any luck through Marketplace or Facebook or through word of mouth through her social network. But a lady by the name of Christine, who is in the Goulburn Valley region somewhere, which is local to me, mentioned my name and said what I do about rescuing fabric. So thank you to Christine for giving him my details. He turned up at my shop yesterday and gave me a carload of stuff. I've gone back to the shop this morning, loaded up my car and brought everything home. So today I'm going to show you all the bits that I've got. And there's some really cool stuff there. I haven't looked at it at all. It's just that some of the boxes, you know, they kind of sneak open and you see these goodies. So I'm going to show you all of that. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to answer some of the questions that you've had for me. I've probably got about 100 questions to go through. So some of them will be in this video, some will be answered in this video, and others will be answered in upcoming videos as well. So we'll go through the fabric, I'll lay it all out on the table here, we'll see what we've got, and before I do that I'll show you the fabric I scored last week when Chris and I had to go and pick up some chairs. So I went to the guy that I usually get my sample fabric from, and I'll show you what I got from there as well. There wasn't enough in that for me to do a dedicated video, but we'll have a look anyway. So these are the sample books that I received the other day, and as I opened them just now to have a look at them, they're great fabric pieces. But it occurred to me, these are what I've just done in a batch sewing video. I've just used some of the really big pieces, and you can see all the paper on the back. It's actually a real pain to get these ones off, so I think next time I might try to remember to not take the Warwick fabric samples, because this one here is even worse. Last year sometime I did a video showing you about 120 pieces of these fabric and what I was going to do with them. They're still sitting there. I look at them every single day and I cannot get the paper off without using a lot of my time. So I'm going to have to just cut around to the paper and use up that small piece. Probably end up making lots of puppy poo pouches. And then I've received some velour, I think, just a couple of pieces of upholstery fabric that I've pulled out of the bin. And then we have some samples. Oh, these have got, I think these are waterproof, so they might make some good bags. These are great blenders and they're a good size as well. And more of the same. And I do like working with Zappel fabric. They're fairly easy to get the paper off, and they present their fabric pieces really nicely. So they'll make some great bags as well. That's all of the upholstery fabric I've received. Now let's head on along to this pile here. This is part of the ladies' collection. These are vintage craft books, Golden Hands Encyclopedia of Crafts. I like looking through these for ideas for future videos, and I'll probably end up selling those books in the store at some stage. And over here, oh, by the way, those zippers that I received months ago before I started chemo, they're all underneath here. The boys are using them to stop the ping pong balls from going behind the couch. And I haven't had the energy to go through and start using them yet. So one day, look at this. Loads of boxes. I don't know how I managed to fit everything in the car, but everything is this lady's craft stuff. We'll go through and have a look at everything that's in the boxes shortly. Lots of rolls of fabric, and there's a really nice roll of vinyl here as well, and I reckon the stripy fabric next to it will go really nicely together in a bag. So there's lots of rolls of fabric. Some more tubs and baskets over here. And this one I'm really excited about. I've been wanting to get some of this fusible Flexifoam for some time, but haven't had a chance to go shopping, and now I don't have to. I can use it all up. I did actually get shown by this gentleman when he dropped the fabric off a couple of the bags that the lady made, and she did some stunning work. And one of the bags was a perfect bag to make a sewing machine bag for, maybe just with a bit of a tweak, making it a little bit bigger, but using this foam as the stabiliser. I reckon that's going to make a really good sewing bag, and that's something that was suggested to me by Erica yesterday. So hopefully I'll have the energy to do something like that soon. But anyway, I'm going to start unboxing these, and I'll answer your questions at the same time. All right, the first box is really light and it's marked wool. So I don't really keep wool. Usually I'll put that out the front of the shop and we'll just try and get rid of it. And all there is, just a few bags, a few balls of wool and some stranded cotton. So that I will end up putting out the front of the shop. Being winter, this will go, I reckon, on the first day or two. So anything that I don't want for myself, I generally put out the front for $3 to $5 in a bulk lot. Sometimes I'll keep stuff that I think is a little bit better, and when I get somebody that comes into the shop that does charity work, I'll give them a box of fabric and that sort of thing. But I do make sure that none of it goes to landfill. All right. Labels. Okay, so these are labels. I think these are school printed labels. They're not going to be any use to anybody at all. So there will be some things that have to go to rubbish or recycling. And carded lace, I have a stand out the front that I usually sell carded lace for about $5 a card. I don't want to sell it by the metre because I want to just get rid of everything quickly. So people love rummaging through those. And then there are, okay, so this looks like it's a scrap felt box. Lots of felt, which is really good in some projects. Pattern for a clown. I don't think we need that one. It's already just newspapers. Oh, these are going to be handy if I ever do framing. I think I'll give these to Chris. He'll have a use for those. And if I ever need them, I know where to go, don't I? So the first question I have is from Kate. Can I ask where and how you started selling products, and have the videos helped you sell your items? Well, as far as where and how I started selling my products, I've had the shop for nearly 20 years. In the first 12 years or so, all I sold was quilt kits, fabric, quilting supplies, dressmaking supplies and things like that. I didn't actually have the confidence to sell handmade products back then. I didn't think anybody saw the value in anything I made. I was just like everybody else. The videos, yes, they have helped me sell my items. That was a really nice surprise. It wasn't why I got into YouTube. I actually got into YouTube mostly from my keto experience, and I had a separate channel for my sewing, and I merged the two together and found that sewing just took off really well for me. So yeah, the videos have helped me sell my items. I do actually have a story about my journey into retail, and I thought I might share that with you. It's actually a really long story, so I might do that in a separate dedicated video if that's something that you guys would be interested in. Caressa asked, do I make my own personalised labels? No, I don't have time. And the products that I've tried making myself using freezer paper or, printers and things haven't been the greatest labels, especially when you want to wash a product. It's much easier for me to buy my labels in bulk, especially when I buy about 1,500 to 3,000 at a time. But I did get a laser printer the other day, or I got a laser machine the other day, and I started playing around with making my own labels there. So watch this space. Okay, so these look like interfacings, fabric. As I go, I'm sorting things out into recyclables, wools, craft stuff that I want to keep and stuff I don't want to keep. What I do want to keep will end up sitting on the table here, so we can have a quick look at all of that later. Some wadding. So I'm just going to unpack this box of fabric and sort it all out and see what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep. I'm going to get rid of my hat because it's actually warmed up a bit in here. Coco has just taken off with a ball of wool, the cheeky dog. She saw the wool down in the box there, and she snuck away with the ball, and she's expecting me to chase her with it now. Fat chance. Cindy asked, who taught you to sew, and what memories stick out from your early sewing experiences that I still think about? Lots of people have taught me to sew. My earliest memory is when I was probably about 7-ish, 7 or 8. Mum had this wooden egg, and she used to use it for darning socks. It was a heavy wooden egg. She'd stick it in the end of the sock and she'd darn the sock. And so I would watch her do that. She also had a concertina-style sewing basket from the 1950s. It's got some little printing on the top of it, some painted flowers on there, and it's a music box. And in this music box, sewing box, she had little tiny cotton reels in there and needles, and she would show me how she was sewing buttons on. So I was fascinated by that kind of thing when I was a kid. So I guess my fascination with sewing started way back then. There used to be a lady, we called her Auntie Dot. She lived across the road from us, and when my parents went out to work during the day, because we were all really young, this lady would look after us probably after school and on school holidays. She used to knit a lot, and I always sat with her whilst she knitted, and she taught me how to knit. I think she taught me how to crochet as well, and I remember the most complicated stitch that I'd ever seen, probably to this day, is the blackberry stitch or a raspberry stitch, but I nailed it at that young age, and I've never forgotten that either. So I used to do a lot of knitting growing up. I stopped probably about 10 years ago because I started with YouTube. The shop kept me really busy, and so did alterations. Plus it wasn't good for my hands either. So there are a couple of cutting mats in here. These quite sturdy cutting mats, lots of shapes on that side. I haven't seen something like that before. But Chris and I use cutting mats for things that we cut up. I did find this lady had made a couple of tapestry rugs here, and I was going to put them in a box to sell or give away, but I think I'm going to turn these into cushions. So if I can find some pillow stuffing, or may even get some pillows, but I'm going to turn these into cushions, and if the gentleman would like these as a memento of what his wife has made, I might give those to him. I'll message him once I've done them and see if he would like that. I think that'd be a nice thing to do. So I'm going to set that aside, and that will be a future video project. Oh, okay, here's some exciting stuff. Zipper tape, 3 meters each of zipper tape, and then some webbing. I'll definitely use those. Looks like a bag pattern. Oh, and some little decorative zipper pulls. What's my next question? Donna, how long have you been sewing? Do I make quilts? Do I like hand sewing? My most favourite thing to do is hand sewing. I love hand embroidery. I used to do quite a lot of it. I used to do a lot of tapestries. Actually, that's how I started with my hand sewing journey. And I used to do a lot of counted cross stitch as well. I absolutely love counted cross stitch. Don't have the time for those things these days. But they came to me at a really good time when I was a single parent and my children were really young. They'd go to bed at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'd be home the rest of the night on my own. So I would sit there and stitch for years. How long have I been sewing? Well, pretty much most of my life. I'm 61. I started properly sewing probably in year 9 at school, and then it's just gone on from there. Do I make quilts? I've made hundreds of quilts. I used to be a quilt shop, so I used to design my own quilts. They actually used to all be hanging around on all the walls up here before I made the sound blankets, and I've just got chests full of quilts that I'd hand appliqued or machine sewn and things like that. So yes, I've made lots and lots of quilts and table runners and things. Weird Princess asks, what magic bit of wisdom would you give to someone who wants to do already does craft on YouTube? The best advice I could give you is be yourself. You can see I don't go and doll myself up or anything like that. I don't put on any fancy wigs or fancy hats. These days I don't even put mascara on because I only have about 12 eyelashes left. So be yourself. Find your thing. I mean, if you look back at my early videos, you'll see I'm really I feel like I'm really bland in the videos because my personality hasn't come out. I was probably a little bit scared. I was quite a lot scared in front of the camera. Even when Chris would come walking by, I would turn everything off and I'd stop talking and stand there like a stunned mullet until he left the room. So now I have lots of confidence. But look, the only bit of wisdom I could give you is just be yourself. If you be yourself, people will know and accept you for who you are, and I think that'll help your channel grow. Bonjour. I found a hat that fits. Should I keep it? I don't think it suits me. Cute. I'm finding lots of great pieces. I found bag handles, lots of really nice coloured bag handles, bag hardware, some bamboo handles and some craft items. Oh, and this box is full of eyelets. Oops. magnetic bag closures, and I was running low, I think. And wow, well, I'm not going to need to buy any magnetic clasps for quite some time. Fabulous. D-rings and some swivel clips. I need some more storage containers. Faye has asked, when you batch sew, do you still use double-sided tape? Also, what thread do you use in your bobbin? Did you find the missing dress? All right, the thread that I use most of the time is just a regular Gutermann sew-all thread. And this lady has a box of thread here. And does she have any? So I use just a regular Gutermann sew-all thread for nearly all of my sewing. Sometimes I'll use Resant. I like Resant as well. I won't use cheap thread. Sometimes I'll use that in my bobbins because they're not good quality threads. No, sometimes I'll use those in my overlocker because they're not really good quality threads there anyway, and it just helps keep those 4 colours together. I'll go through these threads here. I'll keep anything that's Gutermann and anything that's not good enough for me to use, I will put into a box. And I usually sell a lot of sewing supplies in the shop. I usually have the same bobbin thread as I do on the top. It's very rare for me to use something different. And did I find that missing dress? I'm just going to pause the camera for a moment. I not only found the dress, but I found its almost identical twin sister. So Chris and I used to do a lot of rock and roll dancing, and we used to teach it at one stage as well. So this is one of my rock and roll dresses. It's one of my favourites actually, red and black spots. So I've made that one, and I used to make all of my dresses a few years ago, and I also made this black and white one as well. So this is, which is the back and the front? Okay, it's got a sweetheart neckline on the front, and for this one I did a V back, and this one here just has the back neckline going straight across and a princess line neckline here. So it took me a really long time to find that dress. I went and had a look in the cupboard the other day and it was right there in front of my nose. So there you go, I did find the dress. So I pulled out the thread that I wanted to keep, and the rest I've kept in the box, and I'll take that back to the shop. Oh, okay, we have a box of beads. I'm just going to put all of these aside and they can go straight to the shop. And some fabric. All right, this is a tube for bias. So when you make your bias strips, you put it through the tube and then you have a little pokey thing that goes through the tube and it turns your bias strips the right way around. This one looks like a huge tub of assorted fabric. What's our next question? Bryony, I'd love a shop tour. How do you display your bags that you batch sew? Is there ever a time you donate any remaining ones to charity so you can fill the space with new inventions? Do you always display all bags you make, or do you keep some packed away? Have you ever looked into having your bags on display in a craft shop? I'm going to do a shop tour. I've tidied up my sewing space and I've been trying to keep it tidy for the past couple of weeks. I wasn't there last weekend and we had a bit of a setback health-wise a couple of weeks ago, so I couldn't do my tour then, but it is coming. Do I donate remaining fabric bags? No, I don't. I haven't had any need to. If there's ever any products in my shop that I don't like or they've been around for too long, then I'll just mark the price down and hopefully it'll go eventually. I'm also pretty lazy and forgetful, I guess, so I don't think about doing that. I don't often tidy up my sections unless I plan on doing a shop tour. How do I display my bags? As you walk into the shop, I've got these little S hooks, so all my supermarket shopping bags are displayed there. I always have 2 of every pattern that I have hanging up, and inside the shop I have excess stock sitting on the bottom of one of my shelves. I have an aisle for all my handmade products. I do display nearly everything I have. Have I looked into having them on display in a craft shop? I have had offers for people to take my products and put them in their shops, and whilst I'm happy for people to do that, the prices that I have in my shop I consider to be wholesale prices anyway, because they're only ever my labour charge out rate and a small cost for some of the materials I have. If I put them into another shop, those people want the bags purchased, or they want to purchase the bags at a much lower rate than what I sell them in my shop already. So it doesn't work that way for those people. They can double the price if they wanted to, and I'm sure they'd get their money in little niche areas. But it's actually easier for me just to do everything myself. And I don't think I could keep up with the workload either. So I'm going to sort all of this fabric into piles of fabric that I will keep and what I won't keep. And even though there's lots of pieces that are really nice that I'd love to be able to keep, I've got to be realistic. I can't keep everything. Said no girl ever, but I'll do my best. So at the moment I'm sorting things out into stuff that I want to keep, which will all be on the table here, stuff that I'm going to either give away or sell, and other stuff that will be rubbished or recycled. And this looks like a really interesting tub. So this lady liked to use double-sided tape. And there's lots of it. I expect this is the one that you can't sew through, but I will use this in projects where I don't actually sew. So when I'm using my labels, I'll adhere those down, I'll place a strip of tape in the middle of my label and sew around to the outside. That way I can use up the tape, it keeps everything in place, and I don't gum up my needles. Some leather belts, tape measure, I actually do need a new tape measure, and some other bits and pieces. What is exciting are these 2 storage tubs. Check that out. I like to use pillboxes for my little cam snaps or my little plastic snaps. And this one here's got lots of dividers in it. If I can get into it. And given that it's so hard to get into, I think I might not keep them. Because knowing me, I'll end up upending everything that's in the box. But that's a pretty nifty little storage container. I do like my bits and pieces to be organised. I'll have a think about those. Snap fasteners, bias binding and elastic and just general haberdashery. Most of the older elastic pieces, I'll put those in a box with the threads and just sell those because they tend to perish, and I'll only use what is good enough for me to use in my alteration service or my sewing projects. Let's see what the next question is. The Midwest Seller. Do you ever sew things for your home and not share with your viewers? I share everything with you guys. I don't think that there's anything that I do at home that you don't know about. Diane, do you also do hand embroidery aside from sewing? Other than handbags and pouches, what are your favourite things to sew for your shop or friends or family? Well, hand embroidery is one of my favourite things, as I mentioned earlier. My favourite things to sew, well, for myself, are my dance dresses, but I haven't been able to do that. Well, I haven't done that for a while because Chris and I both had shoulder surgery, haven't been able to dance, and now with chemo and cancer, even less opportunity to dance. I don't have the stamina. Hopefully we'll get back into that maybe next year or maybe the year after. We've got plenty of time for that. I do miss dressmaking. I wish I had more time for it, and I have actually purchased an online course and I've never looked at any of the videos. So I hope to get into that sometime. So I'll sort that stuff out, and that and the rest of it, and I'll sort everything out and put on the table for us to look at later. I have one last big basket to go through, and then I've just got some fabric and some stabilizers. So I might just pull all of this stuff out. It doesn't look very exciting. It looks like a few unfinished projects in here. And more wool. And some floss cards. And more fabric. And more questions. Okay, Stephanie wants to know, when I try making Helping Hands card holders, my CDs would break. How do I keep them from breaking? Well, if you've got them on display in a shop, then I recommend putting them out of reach of kids and letting the adults look at them rather than the kids, because what the kids do, and some adults as well, is they'll pull apart the discs to see how it's made, and then they'll snap. Now, what I've done as a result of that is use double discs. So on each side of my card holders, I'll have 2 CDs in there, and that has actually stopped people from snapping them. I also put a sign on there, these are made with CDs, or I did have a sign, these are made with CDs or DVDs, don't pull apart. But since I put them out of reach from kids, it's a little bit better. It's a lot better. I haven't had any issues. Kathy wants to know, I'd like to hear more about your rock and roll dancing and music. Hubby and I love rockabilly music and going to festivals. We want to learn swing dancing and get retro clothing. I started rock and roll dancing the day after my dog died. My girlfriend, I was so disappointed, I was so distraught, and I was also going through a marriage breakup at the time. And she just said, you know what, you're coming dancing with me. And at the time I was really quite reserved. I've never danced in my life. So we went there, and I wouldn't let her make me walk in the door by myself. I was way too shy. So she had to meet me out the front. And it wasn't long before I started going on my own and also staying for the advanced classes. When it got to going to dances, I made her and her husband come with me because I was too afraid to go on my own. But eventually I got courage and confidence. Just like with YouTube, it builds your courage and confidence. And I started going to dances. Well, I would walk in by myself because I got to know a lot of people there, and ended up having a beautiful time dancing. Chris eventually came on board. We'd got together sometime after I started dancing. He taught me to play table tennis. I taught him to dance. And I'm a better teacher because he's a much better dancer than I am a table tennis player. And eventually we started teaching. So we started by teaching ballroom dancing because I used to go to ballroom dancing as well. And then eventually I would help my dance teacher. And then we ended up taking over his classes, and everybody wanted to do rock and roll instead. So we started teaching rock and roll, and we actually started teaching at the back of our shop. We had a really tiny space there. Then we grew into the hall, and then eventually we started teaching at home here because we've got a really big studio here. And then COVID happened, and our families started to get older and have more health issues, so we needed to spend time with them. So we kind of pulled back from that, as well as our shoulder surgeries. So we will get back to it one day. We do have a rock and roll YouTube channel, and it's called Rockin' Nagambie. So it's the town that we live in. And we do have lessons on there where you can learn how to do rock and roll. So it's all the basics, and we really go through all the steps that you want to learn for rock and roll. So check it out. It's funny, actually, when Chris and I do go to the occasional dance, we've had people come up to us, and you can usually tell when they've watched our channel, because they keep looking over at us all the time, and it's like they're starstruck, and we're really just two normal people. But they'll come over and tell us that, you know, they've learnt to dance from us, and yeah, and then they'll spend the night in front of us, in front of our table, showing us all their dance moves. So it's been really, you feel really chuffed when you see people come over and show you how they've learnt to dance from your videos. Let's get back to this. All right, we are almost finished. I've gone and processed everything, sorted into piles of things that I want to keep, what's rubbish, what's recyclable, and what I'm going to sell at the shop. I got another one of these, so I'm pretty pleased about that. I've already got two. One I use for my eyelets and the other one I use for the little rivets, and this one I can take to the shop. So the last two things which I'm really excited about, well, not so much this one. This is a full roll of mid-weight stabiliser from Legacy, and it looks to be a sew-in product. So I think it's just a medium weight sew-in interfacing, which will actually be really good inside pockets. And this one here, which I've been wanting to get for a long time, but I never seem to get anywhere to go shopping. This is Legacy Flex Foam Stabiliser. It's a single-sided fusible, and I've been wanting to get some of this to use in some bags to give it more structure. So I'm really pleased about that, and there's lots more on little off-cut rolls as well. Oh, and I've still got to show you the rolls of fabric. But before we do that, we've got a couple more questions. I just want to finish this page. D. Humphrey says, I have a problem collecting fabric. Well, don't we all? I mean, look at this. I know you are gifted sample fabrics and probably have a large stash. How do you organise so you know what you have? Well, I try to be really disciplined or organised and put my cotton fabric onto cards, which you've seen in my sewing room. I have a cubicle and I use comic boards and I wrap my fabric onto that. My fat quarters or smaller pieces of fabric, I've got wine rack cubicles built into my shelves, and you'll see that on my sewing room update. I'll pop a link if I remember, and I stack them up in there. And my upholstery fabrics, I fold them wide enough so that they fit in my cubicles, and then I just fold them flat and they stack on top of each other. And then the rest is a mess. So over here, I've got this really long 1930s couch, which is the same as this, and it's full of fabric, and it's covered with fabric to hide it all. Then I have another stand over here that has fabric folded up that's been there about 18 months. I have a school cupboard outside that has fabric. The spare room has a table full of sample fabrics and then a rack that's got the hanging samples on there. And then at the shop, I have a couple of areas where I have fabric as well. So what's in my sewing room, in my studio, is mostly organised, but the rest is a schmozzle. Lydia says, do you use your Locklick, the craft cutting machine, more to cut your pattern pieces for bags, or do you prefer cutting by hand or rotary cutter? I would much rather use my rotary cutter. More so because that's what I've been using for the past 20 years, so I'm really comfortable with that, and it's very quick. With the Locklick machine, I've got to get my computer and set everything up, and then I've got to go and feed the machine with all the fabric pieces. So the Locklick, the craft cutter, is actually really good for small things that I want to do, and I just used it recently to make the vinyl tabs on the front of my bags that I've made. And that video is a batch sewing video that'll be coming up soon. So you'll see me having used that there. So I prefer it more for smaller, repetitive things rather than bigger pieces of fabric. Carol says, I'd love to be able to read those cute labels. I'll find some labels and I will put them into the video, and you can have a look and see what they say. Shelley, this will be the last question. Shelley asks, how do you decide whether to cut your box corners before or after sewing the fabric? I have better luck when I cut them before sewing. There's no reason why I would cut corners before or after, except for the fact that I might forget to organise my corners earlier. Sometimes I haven't decided what size I want my box corners to be, so I'll cut them out later. So if I'm doing a bag and I haven't quite made a decision on how big I want that piece, because a lot of the times I'm working with fabric that I haven't pre-cut, it's already given to me as is, and I'm just going to work with it as is, so I do the minimal amount of cuts. So if I'm making box bags, for example, I will make the box bag without cutting the corners, and then I fold the corners over to give me an idea of how big the bag is going to be when it's finished, and then I'll decide what size my corners are going to be. So yeah, there's no rhyme or reason as to why I do one thing over the other. I've got about 6 pages of questions to go. I think we'll save that for another video. Let's go and see the rest of the fabric, and then I'll show you everything that I've got here. All right, the last thing we've got to look at here is all of these pieces. So I think that these might just be poly cotton. If they are, I'm just going to sell those. Anything that's cotton or upholstery fabric I'll keep. And I'll do a burn test on the fabric to see if it's fabric or poly. This is a really nice vinyl. It's like a platinum textured or printed vinyl, and I think that this fabric, this upholstery fabric, will go really nicely with it. Then there's another piece underneath that as well. There's more foam on here and some stiff interfacing. This looks like a really nice, fun piece of fabric. That's upholstery. This looks like this is printed cotton, probably from Spotlight, which is our big chain fabric store, or one of them. Looks like some heavier, I know that looks like some curtaining. It's a brushed type of fabric. Probably won't keep that one. Some interfacings. I've already got a lot of interfacings. I don't need any more. Did I just say that? There's more of that bag stuff and another roll of fabric. And this is some of the fabric that I've got. This is neat. So these are upholstery fabric pieces that I will use eventually if I live that long. I plan to. And this is the other bench that's hiding a whole lot of fabric under there. I did have a look the other day, and then I've just covered it over and walked away again. Coco's got her pink socks. She went back to that wool box trying to get the wool out to run off with and play. She's made a mess of the other one. Let's have a look here. Now, this bag had a whole lot of embroidery threads in it, but I thought it was a really nice bag that I could do a video for. This looks like it's made with some kind of a plastic-backed fabric, but it'll be a really nice big knitting bag, I think. Great for knitting needles, craft projects. So I think we'll do a project on that. Now, these fabric pieces here, these are already quilted, and I'm thinking that what I might do is use those as backings for this tapestry that this lady's done, and there's a little bit of fabric left over that I can use for a binding, so I reckon that's what I'm going to do with that, and hopefully her husband will like that. Otherwise I'll have to sell the cushions. Chopping mats. I'm assuming these are going to be for the base of bags because she seemed to make a lot of bags. There's a lot of upholstery fabric here, some really nice pieces. There's a lot of fabric that I didn't keep this time around, but that is a gorgeous piece of fabric, isn't it? I love these vibrant colours. So I'll keep all of those. This box here is full of eyelets, D-rings, bag closures and magnetic bag closures. There are some star templates here, and these I think are to make some kind of a star, patchwork star pattern. There's a couple of metric rulers, and there's a triangle ruler. So funny story about these triangle rulers. Mum and I, when we used to do patchwork, when I had my other store, I gave her one of these because we were working on a project. And this was about 10 years ago, and for the life of us, we still haven't been able to find this ruler. So yeah, funny story. We're still looking for that ruler. And a couple of square ones, smaller ones, a few different shaped templates. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those. These long skinny boxes, I think they're going to cause me more grief than anything, especially since they're so difficult to open up. I might end up selling those or seeing if Chris wants them in his shed. He might have a use for those. There's a nice piece of vinyl here and a thread stand. And this is a really nice piece of Georgette. I'm keeping this because I love the colour, and I may make something, a summer blouse or something, I'm not sure. But then there's lots of other nice pieces of fabric here. So, as I said, with fabric, I didn't really keep much at all. There is a nice bag pattern here, and it's got all the bits to go with it. The zipper outline things and all the hardware to go with it. So I'll have a look at that pattern. Maybe we can modify something to suit ourselves. Lots of fabric in here. I've got those craft books, which I will hold off selling. I'll wait and go through them. Oh, and there's a box of sewing supplies that I'm going to keep at the moment. So there's a really good pair of Class A scissors here. They're in very good condition. I do love my scissors. I don't love pinking shears, but these might be better than the rubbish ones I've got. And unused elastic, which I'll keep. These are to hold your bobbin and your thread in place. I don't use those, but I did check with Mum that she's not really keen on those either. Some highlighters, which we use all the time. These are the threads I'm keeping. I don't know what this is. There's 4 of them, and they're too big to be belts, but they do have Tuni or CUNY written on it, so I might Google that to find out what it is. A couple of bits of bias binding and a tape measure because I needed another one. And over here I've kept one of the tubs, and there's all the bag strapping there, zipper tape, another strapping, some more zipper tape, and these ones I think are all bag handles, or what will become bag handles. More zipper tape, loads of double-sided tape, but as I mentioned earlier, I do expect these to be the ones that I can't sew through, but they'll get used slowly. And then this lady's also chopped up some belts, and I think the belts would be great in as bag handles, so we might use that in a project as well. Over here, this is all the rubbish, so this is stuff that can't go into the recycle bin, just some little plastic bags and things, garbage bag. So that one will go in the rubbish bin. I've got a couple of things here to sell. There's a couple of bowls. They'll just go in the dollar box. The hat the hat I'll sell, and the frames. And this is just an apron. I'll put that on with the other aprons in the shop. A box and some packaging that we'll take to the shop. Chris and I get excited when we get bubble wrap and packaging for eBay items, and especially when we get a bag full of plastic bags. We reuse all of these. So in the years that we've had the shop, we've never bought plastic bags for customers. We've just always recycled things from deceased estates and that we clean out. We'd run out a couple of weeks ago, so we're pretty excited about that. Now, down here, I've got a couple of tubs of assorted fabric. These are the ones that I don't want to keep, and I'll end up putting them out of the shop. I'll put them into smaller boxes or on my fabric shelf and sell those. This basket here has a whole lot of embroidery designs, cross stitches, tapestries and things. I'll sort through those at the shop and box them up into maybe 2 or 3 box lots and sell those. There are 2 boxes of miscellaneous sewing supplies and a box of beads. They'll all go to the shop. There's more fabric in here that'll go to the shop. And this is craft stuff that'll go to the shop. And a box of thread and the wool that I've had to hide from the dog. And then over here we've got the frames. I'm going to give those to Chris, and some double-sided tape. There's a few sewing bits in here that I'll keep, craft cutters and needles and things. Bag handles. I've been wanting some of these for a while as well because I'd like to put those into a bag. Then this thing tube turner and some more pens and hardware. And I think that's about it. Great haul. And this is where Coco and I get to say goodbye. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've enjoyed sharing all the lovely goodies that I've received. The gentleman that bought the fabric and craft stuff over, he is going to load up his car again with some more of his wife's goodies and bring them over, possibly on the weekend or in the next couple of weeks. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now. I know. Get it. She loves her socks when it suits her.